The Russia collusion investigation. What have we really learned? The top 10 things coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Hello everybody and welcome to Deceptions of the Ages News. I just want to start off by saying thank you to all of my subscribers and everybody who has left comments in the comments section of the videos of this channel. And if you will go through the comments, you will see a wealth of information, and the information that has been hidden, people are getting together and they're posting the truth in the comment sections of these videos. Now, this channel is about basically the topics of my book, Deceptions of the Ages, Mormons, Freemasons, and Extraterrestrials, but because of what has been going on, there is just no end of lies and false media and false reporting. And this Mueller investigation and this Trump collusion thing is no different than anything else. So before we get into this, I want to thank everybody for being a part of the channel, for subscribing and being a part of this community. I don't know how long I will be able to keep the channel on the air, but I will do the best I can to keep bringing you the truth and to tell you what's really happening in the stories that you see on the news today. So let's look at the 10 things that we learned about the Russia collusion investigation, and as well the United States and our political system. The first thing we learned about the Trump Russia collusion investigation is that in the report itself, it was not Trump, but it was Hillary Clinton who was colluding with not only the Russians, but a number of other players in her pay-for-play scheme. And all of this revolved around her email server and her time that she spent as Secretary of State. Now, what a lot of people don't understand about Hillary's email server was it really was nothing more than a post office box for foreign contributors to the Hillary, what was that? The Clinton Foundation. It was nothing more than something that people could access and that she could use as a State Department resource to influence decisions made by other people who were contributing to her campaign. And of course, it goes a lot deeper than that. And you can look into whatever you want about that. But one example is that during the Benghazi attack, the consulate general or the ambassador in Benghazi who was killed was actually spent most of his time while he was under attack trying to placate one of Hillary Clinton's major contributors and get him set up in the post-Gaddafi Libya world. So that was the second thing we learned about from the Mueller investigation, is that Hillary's email server was really nothing more than a post office box, and the people who had access to it were most likely the people who contributed to her foundation. Who else had access to it? Well, of course, it was the people who set up the server, and those people have all pled the fifth or fled the country. So there's something really serious going on there. But let's go on to number 3. The next thing we learned from the Russia collusion investigation is that the United States people cannot elect their own leader. And if they have the gumption to do that, like what happened in the case of Donald Trump, then the entire apparatus of the secret Gestapo, like FBI, and everything else, the NSA, all of those things can come into play and be used against that elected leader. And not only that elected leader, his friends and anybody who supported him. And we now know that the IRS was absolutely auditing anybody that had anything to do with Trump, and the idea was to make it so difficult for them that they just gave up. And that's already come out. So that was the third thing that we learned about the Trump investigation, was that if the United States people try to elect their own leader, not the leader the fake media and the rich corporations and the banks dump on us, but if we try to elect our own leader who promises to do something to protect us from these people, well, you see what happens. Not only will that leader pay, the United States people who tried to elect him will pay as well. Now, the next thing we learned is that the media, the fake media, if they tell a lie and it doesn't work, they'll just keep telling the same lie. So when Hillary Clinton lost the election after the media told everybody all the way up to election night, even Fox News had written off Donald Trump. But on election night, he won. So then the media had to tell another lie. And the lie was that, oh, he must have colluded with Russia and they must have interfered in the election, and they spent millions of dollars on hearings and whatnot and found out there was absolutely nothing to that. And that was completely separate from this investigation. So what we learned is that the media cannot face the truth. They don't know what is going on. They have no idea what it is they're reporting on. And they basically are nothing more than like a cartoon with people sitting around talking, because they don't even report the news. So they report what they think, and that tends to be it. So that was one of the saddest things we learned, is that we do not have a credible media in the United States. The next thing we learned is we learned the extent of the deep state's involvement in not only our media, in our politics, but also within social media. So we learned that Facebook and Google were basically just basically making sure that if you had a conservative viewpoint, nobody was going to see that. And now I know that firsthand, because I ran for the United States Senate in Washington State. And if I had won, things would be completely different, but they're not different. And you know why I didn't win? Because nobody even knew I was running. In Washington State, the media, Google, and Microsoft control everything, and Amazon, and they made sure that there were 29 candidates running against the incumbent. They made sure nobody even knew our names. So you talk about a deep state involvement and a media conspiracy, that's all there. Now, this is not a media like Russia, like Google and Facebook. Their tactics are Russia tactics. Their tactics are, they want to, if anybody says anything that they don't like, they will destroy that person and deny that person's ability to even make a living. And this is why I ran for the Senate, because I was going to defund them, I was going to take away their spy money, and I was going to give money to new corporations, new social media that could rise up and compete with them. But they made sure that nobody knew my name. So we learned from the investigation that Facebook, Google, Twitter, I don't know about the rest of them, but we know that they have been weaponized against the American people. The next thing that we learned from the Russia collusion investigation is that the FBI has been infiltrated by, I guess, Iranians, because Lisa Page, apparently, she is coming from an Iranian ancestry. Remember Lisa Page? She was Strzok's whore, I guess, in the FBI. And then we also learned that FBI agents, this Orr character, his wife was basically paid on the staff to take Trump down, okay? So we learned that the FBI is basically full of, what do you call them? I mean, I'm sorry to use the word whore, but if you are going behind your leader's back and trying to overthrow an election and you work for the FBI, you shouldn't work for the FBI. So what we learned from that is that the FBI has been basically infiltrated by a bunch of rats. I mean, there's nothing more that you could say. I mean, I could say worse things, but I couldn't say any nicer things. We learned that the FBI is basically run by and controlled by deep state rats. Next thing that we learned from the Russia collusion investigation is that it was begun by Old Barry. Yep, Old Barry Soweto, also known as Barack Obama. Apparently, his intelligence apparatus, the people he had working for him, as well as the Department of Justice, were actively involved in pushing this narrative and getting it going. So this went all the way up to Old Barry himself. And so what this was, we're going to talk about in a second. But we learned that Old Barry, he's not a good character, and he's running around trying to do things now, and we really need to keep an eye on that old... Anyway, let's talk about what else we know about Old Barry Soweto. Well, as soon as the Russia investigation collusion thing was about ready to near its end, they had a plan. And that plan apparently was to start some kind of race riot with this Jesse, what's his name? Justy? Smollett? What? I don't know what the guy's name is. Anyway, so this guy claims to have been beaten up by white MAGA wearing people, white people who beat him up or something. And then it turned out that he he hired these people to do all this stuff to him. They were Nigerians, I think illegal aliens or terrorists or something. So anyway, Barack Obama basically created this whole scenario, right? Because they had a plan, and this was their plan. If anything happened unfavorable for the Russia collusion, and do you think if they had that much control over these people that they wouldn't know what that report was going to say when it came out? So immediately they had a race war. They were going to have a race war in the United States. So Old Barry was going to be the responsible and was trying to get these people, I guess you call them people, to get people excited and start a race war. So Old Barry, he ain't a good guy, and I hope people realize that, and I hope that he goes up on charges. But that was one of the other things that we learned. The next thing we learned, we'll talk about when we get to the next item. Next thing that we learned about the Trump-Russia investigation is that the people in Congress, apparently this Adam Schiff, he lied. He knew the whole time that there was going to be no collusion, but he kept telling people that he had specific information that there was collusion and that Donald Trump was going to be impeached. And for 2 years, he told the American people, and he kept all these nutcases and these weak-minded sapsuckers, he kept telling him, oh, we're going to get him impeached. And they knew there was nothing there. They knew there was nothing there because if there was something there, they would have got him a long time ago. You know that, and I know that. So what you have is this Adam Schiff, Rothschild's agent. He's still pushing a narrative, and the media is going to collude with him that there is still some kind of collusion. Why? Because the collusion was Hillary's. The collusion was Obama's. So anyway, let's go on to number 10. Sorry. So, number 10. What is the last thing that we learned from the Trump-Russia $27 million, I don't know, like 2,700 witnesses? What did we really learn from that? Well, the first thing we learned is that Trump is apparently impeccably clean. Could you yourself stand up that kind of scrutiny? Could they not find something that you had done in your past? Maybe you had hit somebody and taken their lunch money or something. They would have found that. They talked to so many people and they threatened so many people with jail. So this is what we've really learned, is that the President of the United States was basically victimized. He was attacked by a weaponized political system that is out after you, and that system is out after me. And they want to bring a whole new bunch of people in here, and they want to get people in here that don't know anything about democracy, that don't care about freedom, and that don't care if the government is corrupt, because they came from the same kind of government. And then, of course, there's all the religious, political issues that these people are bringing in here. But basically, we learned that the Republicans were screwed in the election. And then the Republicans were screwed after the election. And they were screwed by the media. They were screwed by our leaders. They were screwed by social media. Basically screwed by the entire system except for the President of the United States. Now, I don't agree with Trump. I'm not some blind follower. There are some really serious issues that I could, have with Donald Trump. But the number one thing we need to do is we need to find out, come to an agreement, who we are as a people. Because we've had so many people come here that have belittled us, that have belittled us as Americans when we allowed them to come here. So we need to sit down and we need to decide who we are as a people. And if there are people here who just don't like the way we do things, people here who think they're going to take over or impose a religion or a political system upon us, well, we need to really sit down and think about, are those people good for this country? And why are we letting them in? And maybe we can convince them there is a better place for them. So, those are the 10 things that we learned. And there's probably 10,000 things that we learned from this horrible, horrible mockery of the American political system, of the intelligence community, of social media, of media. Basically, people, I want you to understand this. This nation is only as good as the people in it. If you're going to keep being bad and you're going to keep letting bad people in this country, it's just going to be a bad country until you do something about it. I tried to do something about it, and now it's your turn. This is Deceptions of the Ages News, and we'll see you next time.